Meeting of the Ridgewood Village Council. The time is 8:03 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law, the schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Bernadette?
Councilwoman Perrin? Oh, I'm sorry.
Here.
I'm sorry. No, not yet. Sorry.
Bernadette first.
Due to the fact that we continue to meet through a remote meeting format, there are some required announcements to be made. All participants are muted during the meeting. Anyone wishing to make comments may do so during comments from the public and during the public hearings on any ordinances by dialing *9 on your phones to raise your hand. And then once you're recognized, dialing *6 on your phones to unmute, or by raising your hand icon if you're on the computer. You must state your name and address for the record. Members of the public may also submit written comments to us for any future remote meetings by either email to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at djackson@ridgewoodnj.net with the subject line "Comments for Village Council Meeting," or written letter to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue. Written comments must have a name and address and be received by 4 p.m. on the day before the remote meeting in order to be read into the record during the meeting. All written comments must adhere to the time limits already set by ordinance. Members of the public commenting during a remote meeting shall not act in any manner to disrupt the meeting. If anyone becomes disruptive during the meeting, they will be muted. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public are provided an opportunity to comment. Any continued disruption may result in the member being prevented from speaking during the remainder of this meeting. Disruptive conduct includes, but is not limited to, shouting, interruption, and the use of profanity.
Okay, very good. Now a roll call.
Okay, Perrin? I'm
Here.
sorry, Councilwoman Perrin?
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
Mayor Newton?
Here. Please join us for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
there we go.
To the flag
Flag,
United
of the States of America,
and to
to the republic for which it stands,
One
nation,
nation, under God,
God.
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation, our first responders, our Blue and Gold Star family members, and for our nation. Thank you. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statements of funds on hand as of December 31st, 2020 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Perrin?
To the extent that these bills reflect invoices from Matt Rogers, the village attorney, and Bill Northgrave, the outside attorney who worked on the appeal of Furman versus Mailander, I object to incurring those costs and paying those bills. Matt has told me that he is waiving his fees for things that would otherwise have been deemed duplicative, in that the other attorney did some work on this too. Nevertheless, the bills that are incurred and that are being paid are not a good expenditure of taxpayer revenue.
Okay, so your vote is?
I vote to approve the payment of bills.
Okay. Seaton?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Reynolds?
Yes.
Seaton?
Still yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton?
And once again, I'll go on the record as saying I fully support the bills incurred, since this is a litigation, a lawsuit that was brought against the Village of Ridgewood and against specifically our village clerk, Heather Mailander, who has served our village for more than 3 decades with an impeccable record, treating everyone fairly, responsibly, and without prejudice or bias. And I think that it's unfortunate, and I think that that we are in an appeal process on a litigation that was brought against Heather. And so I fully support and vote yes.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I move the village council minutes of October, October 28th and December 9th, 2020, having been reviewed by the village council, now available in the village clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
Second.
Perrin,
yes,
Reynolds,
yes,
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Hmm.
We have a proclamation for Jamboree Days, and I will read that. Okay. Whereas Jamboree was established in 1947 by Ridgewood residents to raise much-needed scholarship funds for Ridgewood High School students unable to otherwise afford a college education. And whereas 2021 marks the 75th Jamboree Show, an annual musical theatrical production and fundraiser involving parents and guardian participants working on scripts, scene design and construction, painting, journal production, filming, photography, cooking and serving meals, props, costumes, vocal choreography, behind the scenes, countless practices and more, culminating in multiple live performances, including special appearances by members of the Ridgewood Board of Education. And whereas in 2021, Jamboree producers are grappling with the effects and challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in a rethinking of the annual live event and replacing it with an online Jamboree extravaganza involving 180 remarkable volunteers coming together to create an amazing virtual show while following all COVID-19 protocols to safeguard the health, safety, and well-being of cast and crew. And whereas many volunteers, including producers, scriptwriters, photographers, musicians, choreographers, Jamboree board members, and others, work behind the scenes throughout the year. And this year they worked tirelessly to rehearse all acts to follow to allow for pre-filming and editing in advance of the annual February Jamboree event. Whereas the primary source of the need-based scholarship funding has always been through the sale of Jamboree journal advertisements, and in 2021, the Jamboree fundraising efforts must rely on those journal ad sales and the sale of virtual viewing tickets and donations. And whereas in recognizing the financial impact COVID-19 has had on many Ridgewood families, including those with Ridgewood High School seniors, Jamboree participants have dedicated their efforts to ensuring the virtual production is both entertaining and financially successful to generate appropriate funding of scholarships for Ridgewood High School graduating seniors in need of financial assistance. And whereas it takes countless volunteers to make Jamboree successful, including current parents of students, many Jamboree alumni, dedicated members of our village community, student volunteers, and this year, Jamboree is especially grateful for the assistance of the Village of Ridgewood. And whereas the theme of Jamboree 2021 is appropriately named Mission Impossible, an original musical review, and supporters are encouraged to visit rhsjamboree.org for details and to learn more about how they could support the important work of the RHS Jamboree Scholarship Fund. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood does hereby proclaim February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2021 as Jamboree Days in the Village of Ridgewood, and thanks the current and past volunteers who have participated in Jamboree for their work in distributing more than $1.8 million in need-based scholarships over the last 15 years to hundreds of graduating Ridgewood High School seniors. And I just want to point out that I, along with Councilwoman Perrin, are proud Jamboree members of Jamboree Cast Crew, alumni. We've been doing this for years. And I also want to especially thank our village manager because this has been an incredibly challenging year and we have been working diligently behind the scenes. And we especially appreciate all of Heather's hard work to make sure that Jamboree has had what they needed to help those youngsters get to college. So thank you, Heather. And thanks, Pam. Okay. And with that, I guess we go to comments from the public, not to exceed 3 minutes per person, 40 minutes in total. Dylan?
If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. First person is Judy. Judy, please unmute.
Judy,
Hi.
good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Judy and I live at 330 Eastbrook Road.
Great.
Hi, good evening. Thanks very much for listening and considering to what Nancy had proposed at 7:30 p.m. today. I'd like to just share with you my personal comments and feedback and thoughts regarding what was proposed by Nancy. First, I was extremely surprised that 82 people that are non-resident players come to Ridgewood to play pickleball, while 69 people are from Ridgewood. So just to clarify, currently Somerville and Ridgewood High School courts are open. So they're both open. And actually today I was at the Ridgewood High School court for about half an hour, and there were people playing. There were also 2 people playing pickleball on the Ridgewood High School courts. So, and the reason why I bring that point up is I personally believe it is very difficult to enforce anything, because you just need to have people there all the time, constantly checking. So I honestly do not believe that we were able to enforce non-resident players, even though we don't sell badges, number one. And at the same time, I feel that it's very difficult to enforce the green polymer paddles as well, because unless you have somebody there constantly checking, people would just come in and out, and you have no idea who comes in and out from anywhere. People from New York come here, from Brooklyn come to the Glen Courts, and I know that for a fact. And personally, I think Monday to Saturday, 9 to 4 is totally unacceptable, because there are 12 homes that are within 45 to 100 feet of the pickleball court. And we refuse to listen to the pop, pop, pop sound Monday to Saturday, 9 to 4 p.m. That's just way too much. Personally, I think Plan B is more reasonable. So I'm begging you guys to please think about the neighbors' quality of life, the constant noise pollution that we had to deal with. Summer, winter, 35 degrees, people are out. When there's daylight, people are out. Please consider our quality of life and the things that we actually have to deal with here. So I just want to share my thoughts, and I again appreciate all your consideration, especially to Mayor Knudsen and Lorraine and Bernadette, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Judy. Have a good evening.
All right, next person is Patricia Hensley. Please unmute.
Hi, Pat. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Patricia Hensley. For 23 years, I lived at 1034.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your address now.
23 years, I lived at 1034 Hillcrest Road in Ridgewood. In June of 2018, we left, and I'm now in Colorado. Do you want that address?
That's okay.
Okay. I'm calling, I understand the neighbors are still up in arms about the park across the street and the food and gardening thing that's going on in the original house on the property. I understand neighbors have been complaining about the noise. I'm sorry, I lived across the street from that park back when it was a horse farm. I was there the first year when the soccer teams were coming in, and we had one woman with a real Broadway belter voice and an incredible list of obscenities at her fingertips. That summer was hard because I was directly across the street from the soccer field, and she was creative, but my kids didn't need that lesson yet. Once she left, because her son got too old to play on that group, I never really thought about the park having people in it anymore, because the only people I saw were the ones that I ran into when I was walking my dog around the sidewalk. I loved seeing kids in the little vegetable garden, learning about plants and learning about food at the barn. And I even came to love the soccer games once everybody was yelling, "Go, go," instead of all the other words we all know. I'm sorry to hear that a few of the neighbors are still making a fuss. And I hope you won't let a few people's opinions outshine all the others who are probably not being bothered by it unless they're looking for something to be bothered by.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Stay safe in Colorado.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. The next person is James Norton. Oh, no, Hans Linderman.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please. Hans?
Can you
unmute.
hear me?
Okay. Yes,
you
go
hear
ahead. Name and address for the record, Hans.
I was confused about whom he was calling. It's
Oh.
Hans-Jürgen Lehmann, 234 Union Street.
Mhm.
Good evening, council members. I wanted to address the council one more time about the future of Health Bond. I know this is not an agenda item for tonight, but I want to keep it front and center. I am disturbed when I hear council members talk about complaints about Health Bond from anonymous persons, the grandmother who was mentioned at the last meeting being an example. At this point, I am not sure how many individuals have complained to council members, but I suspect it is a handful at best. So in our system of representative government, you, the members of the village council, are empowered to act on our behalf. An overwhelming majority of residents immediate to the property, as well as any number of other residents of our village, have now spoken up about the merits of Health Bond, whether it be the for-profit or non-profit part of it. Here, I am expressing my concern that the council is not doing right by its residents when so many are in favor of Health Bond and are willing to put their names to what they say and write to this council, while certain members of this council keep referring to a handful of anonymous complainants. Having heard all the favorable comments, certain members of the council have now pivoted to the health of the buildings. You have been the landlords of these buildings for well over 5 years now, where the present tenant is concerned. Yet it is now that you pull this issue out of your kit bag. I smell a political rat. Thank you for listening.
Have a good evening. Go ahead, Dylan.
All right, next person is James Norton.
Okay, so good evening. Welcome back. Unmute and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, it's Barbara Norton,
Hi, Barb.
133 North Pleasant Avenue, 36-year resident of Ridgewood. Not an avid tennis player, but an avid pickleball player. And thanks for making me wait because I did learn a few things. So what I had written isn't necessarily, what I would say now, but I'm going to read it anyway. Thanks for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. First, I want to recognize and thank the Rec Department and Nancy Bigos for the beautiful pickleball courts that were installed last year at Glen. I believe they are one of a kind in Bergen County. They saw the interest and need of residents and they acted on it. But if you build it, they will come, and they did. Those courts allowed many people from our town and many non-residents to be outside during this pandemic when indoor forms of exercise were halted, which is part of the reason they were so populated this past year. Many surrounding towns have outdoor pickleball courts now, so non-residents do have courts that they can go and play on. They're just not as nice as ours. It's very true that the game is growing and more people are playing, so I think the decision to limit badges to residents right now is a good one. I myself often reserved a court in the afternoon because of the large crowds in the morning, and limiting the courts to residents only should drastically cut down on the number of players using them in the future. Now I'll digress a little from what I heard before. I know Nancy said there would be a schedule and alternating tennis courts for pickleball, etc. I did hear her say that Sunday would be closed. I would like you to reconsider that because there are a lot of people who work who can't play Monday through Friday between 9 and 4. And there are younger people that play. I don't know if you're aware, but Ridgewood High School has been teaching pickleball in their indoor PE for many, many years. When I came home and told my kids I learned pickleball, they looked at me and said, "Mom, we did that in high school." And they want to play too. And they can't play when they're in school, hopefully when they're back in school. And my husband is still working and he can't play from 9 to 4. So I would like to see Sunday as an option. Take away a day during the week. I can live without a day of pickleball. I'm retired. I wasn't sure it was happening. I know the courts were still locked. So my next comments were about that. I would like the courts to be open right away. The cold weather, winter weather, and resident only rule would greatly limit the number of players using them now. Windows in nearby residents are closed, so noise would be less of an issue, and the shorter amount of daylight we have at this time of year would shorten the hours people would be able to play if they even wanted to go out in the cold and play. And I know there are people out in the cold playing. So please reconsider, unlock the courts as soon as possible, so that if there are people who want to, they can. I hadn't heard anything about the reservation system this year. I know as a resident, I was able to reserve a court for an hour. And I did take advantage of that because I went over and the courts were too crowded. I didn't want to stand around when there were 20 people waiting to play.
Yep.
So I often would make a reservation in the later afternoon, get my own little group of 4, and we would play. And I think if you continue to do that reservation system, that will also cut down on the number of people standing around and just showing up. So I didn't hear that mentioned, but I would ask that that be continued in the future. I know this is not solving your long-term problems.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention, and the village manager is waving a clock at me. Your time is up. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
But I do thank you for your thoughtful comments. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand. Oh, one more. A dial-in.
Island. Good evening. Please state your name.
4074.
Sherry Bisk at 178 McKinley Place. I first of all would like to agree with the previous speaker, Barbara Norton, that I don't think Sunday is the right day to be closed, largely because of the people who work, and also because if we are going to be forced to go play at other towns, their courts will be more crowded on Sundays and more open to us on the weekdays. I also would like to ask some of the neighbors who have spoken. I know that our mayor has indicated she wants the public to be an exemplary neighbor. I would ask that the local neighbors also be asked to move in that direction. I think it is unrealistic of anyone who bought near a school to expect total silence. I just don't think it's realistic. Those tennis courts could just as easily have been converted to basketball courts, which would be totally expected at a school. So I think we need our Glen neighbors to also attempt to be exemplary. I'm not at all in favor of Plan B because playing on portable nets with weird lines is not nearly the same as playing on the courts that have been built. And so I would argue strongly, if you want to set up different hours for the Glen courts, to look more closely at that. But I do think it is utterly unreasonable for folks in a school neighborhood to expect complete silence. So I ask you to, again, not represent just the Glen neighbors, but to please represent all of your constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no others.
Okay, I have 9 written comments.
Okay, very
So-
good. What we're going to do is we're going to close the phone comments and move to those written comments. Go on ahead, Heather.
Okay. Joanne Archer, 241 West End Avenue. Dear members of the Ridgewood Village Council, I am asking the Village Council to please open the tennis and pickleball courts while we resolve the issues. It is winter, there will be less players, and everyone's windows will be closed. But later this week, the weather will be 50 degrees, a great opportunity for us to be outside playing. We are disappointed that no one from the Village Council ever thought to contact any of the pickleball players at any time to discuss any concerns. Did the council conduct any studies before closing the courts? We, the pickleball community, have worked diligently gathering information and data so we can be better informed for our further discussions. We, the pickleball community, are great neighbors collectively. We are the backbone of Ridgewood. Let's work together to get all the courts in Ridgewood opened now. The next one is from Kathleen Azara, 955 Hillcrest Road. Dear Ridgewood Village Council, I am writing to you to ask you to open the Glen courts now and not wait for months to come. Being able to play pickleball on these warm winter days would mean a lot to many pickleball players in Ridgewood. As an older player, pickleball offers me and many others great exercise, and it's a wonderful social outlet during this pandemic. I thank you for your consideration. The next one is from Dwin Bond, 418 Wastina Terrace. I'm following up on the January 6, 2021 council meeting. I am somewhat confused and rather dissatisfied with the council's suggestions to manage the Glen School pickleball courts. I suspect the pickleball community was not effective in conveying the nuances of this new sport to all council members. Certainly, the suggested proposals reflect some confusion regarding the game and may in fact create additional problems for play in other Ridgewood locations. Quite frankly, it is difficult to find a solution to this problem when it is not quite clear what the problem is. Fee structure, use issues, noise. Several council members mentioned unbearable noise, inability to work from home, etc. All these subjective reasons for the abrupt closure of the courts. I have no knowledge of how widespread the noise issue is or how many residents are affected. Without anything more definitive, the needs are unclear. The proposal to close courts, to reduce the number of courts, or to convert tennis courts to pickleball courts at other sites, among other suggestions, may create additional problems and likely will not remediate the issue we currently face, appeasing a small number of neighbors who object to play at Glen School. Pickleball and tennis can be played on the same court surface-wise, however, the line markings and net height differ. Removing a tennis court from play will, most likely, upset village tennis players. Playing on inferior courts when state-of-the-art courts are available at Glen will most likely upset village pickleball players. And the neighbors whose properties surround the other courts will most likely have reactions similar to those of the Glen neighbors. I feel it is important for the council to recognize the pickleball play at Glen courts will be significantly reduced if use of the courts is limited to Ridgewood resident badge holders, and therefore courts should be made available for play immediately. The next one is from Patty Durang from 519 Laurel Road. Dear Mayor Knutson and Village Council, I'm reaching out to you today in support of reopening the pickleball courts at the Glen School. I understand you are getting many letters, comments from both sides of the aisle on this one. I appreciate you all taking time to hear our voices, especially with all the other important issues and problems you are facing day to day. I'm trying to take a very objective and unbiased approach. I've lived in Ridgewood for 14 years and honestly have never really engaged or been involved in any discussion or debate within the village. I had recently started to play pickleball and have fallen in love with it. I'm a former athlete who really enjoys the low impact game, the competitiveness, and the socialization camaraderie. Aside from pickleball being a game that anyone of all ages and skill levels can play, I am most fighting for these courts for our older population. These folks have grown to love the game, the exercise, and the socialization. As a fairly young and fit person, there are many indoor or outdoor activities that I can choose to partake in. This is not the case for all of our residents. The exercise and fresh air are priceless. As you are hearing a lot, with the added COVID situation, pickleball is one of a few activities we can participate in safely. I could go on and on about the benefits of pickleball, but I won't bore you. I'm empathetic to the nearby residents who feel that the pickleball playing can be somewhat noisy. I do not live in the area or in the houses close by, so I will not pretend to assume it's not a big deal or not annoying. However, with the current noise abatement currently in place at Glen, along with the other recent changes we have made, I feel there should be a compromise for all. To name the recent changes, reduced playing hours, more noise absorbent rackets and balls, and eliminating out-of-town badge sales. In addition, it has come to my attention that there are a few adjustments that should be made to the current installation of the Acustablock curtains that were installed to combat the noise a few years ago. I believe if we make some adjustments to the curtains and complete a sound study, we should fall into the state acceptable noise decibel levels. Finally, for what it's worth, sound, like anything, is subjective. We are all tuned in or annoyed by different things. When living in a vibrant, active, and communal town, we all have to learn to live with various sounds. I, for one, do not care for the almost constant sound of the lawnmowers and leaf blowers throughout most of the year. However, I understand that this is part of living in a busy suburban area. I also appreciate that there are structured hours of operation for these activities. I feel that pickleball can adopt those same or similar guidelines. To sum it up, I feel there is way too much benefit and upside to having these courts open than the one con to closing them. So many people I know and have recently met are getting so much joy from utilizing these courts. Maybe long-term there are better locations or solutions. For now, I think it's fair and appropriate to open up these courts. I'm a youth travel coach in town and can tell you firsthand how important now more than ever extracurricular activities, sports, exercise, and recreation are for our community. Currently, we have no other pickleball courts in town. I thank you all for your attention. The next one is from Eileen Kubikowski, 533 Windermere Avenue. Dear Mayor Knutson, Deputy Mayor Seaton, Ms. Donna Jackson, Ms. Heather Maylander, Ms. Bigos, Ms. Bernadette Walsh, Councilwoman, Ms. Pamela Perrin, Councilwoman, Ms. Lorraine Reynolds, Councilwoman, and anyone else who may have an interest or authority over the pickleball courts in our village. I'm a member of the group called the Pickleball Mamas and a 27-year resident of Ridgewood. I also have 4 kids that all went through various sports, so I'm intimately familiar with the importance the Parks and Rec facilities plays in our town. I'm writing this note to you all requesting that the pickleball courts be kept open as you work with our suggested group to help address the affected neighbors' concerns. As a retired die-hard tennis player, and because of a knee injury, I have been unable to play tennis for a number of years. This summer, I was invited to play pickleball and I was hooked immediately. What sold me the most was the ability to be outside and to engage with a wide variety of people of all ages. After being inside for months during the quarantine, the ability to go to a safe space and get exercise for my body and my mind was such a refreshing experience. This game provides an outlet to many people to release stress and hardships from their day-to-day lives, especially in this new world of divisiveness. It is a beautiful sight to see a community of people coming together and just being happy to be alive and playing a game that promotes inclusivity. So much so that over Thanksgiving weekend, a group of us brought our teenage children, boys and girls alike, to play around robin. It was an unbelievable sight, and I was proud to be part of it in our village that brought this game into so many of our lives. I understand that our Park and Rec mission statement is to preserve open space and provide facilities year-round recreation that meet the needs of all residents. I am hoping I can trust that you will help us accomplish this mission. Thank you for your time and consideration. The next one is from Jeff Pfeiffer, 146 South Van Dien Avenue. I am a Ridgewood resident and a pickleball player. I sat through the meeting of the 1/6 meeting. It became very clear to me the village council does not really understand the problem. Furthermore, the potential solution is not viable. Let's recap. The council has decided that one woman who has lived there 30 years is complaining about the noise. It is my understanding that for 30 years, this woman has complained about Little League soccer leaf blowing. Where does her right to peace and tranquility intersect with my rights to use municipal facilities? No matter what you do, she will complain. In the interim, you will destroy a pickleball community that is self-supporting. There is no good solution in the short term to solve this problem. Long term, to build pickleball courts in open space areas, not near a residential area by the municipal building or grading pool. The pickleball courts cost approximately $10,000 per court. The pickleball community generated $30,000 in revenue for the village, utilized 900 plus members, approximately 35% residents and 65% non-residents, raised the rates for non-residents to $200 per person. The incremental revenue should generate approximately $40,000, allowing the village to break even within 2 years. The village council solution of converting one court at each of the tennis facilities makes little sense. What you have done is annoy existing tennis players. More importantly, if in fact there is a noise issue, then you will now create the same noise issue throughout Ridgewood. In the short term and due to COVID, open up the Glen School courts, reduce the days played, eliminate Mondays, reduce times played from 8 to dusk to 9 to 4 p.m. until daylight savings returns. Do not curtail non-resident passes. Cap the number of players to the number that exists. If the existing player does not renew by 2/15, the pass can be resold to another non-resident. Please don't cancel the good of 900 people for the good of 30 and one loud chronic complainer. Please reconsider your solution and open up the Glen School courts now. The next one is from Doug Roten, 120 Melrose Place. Dear Mayor Knutson and the Village Council, sorry to take more of your time. I remain concerned that Ridgewood's current noise ordinance subjectivity makes long-term pickleball planning extremely difficult and risky. As we have seen with the Glen neighbors who were originally satisfied or at least placated by the mitigations put in place, including installing expensive sound screens, noise subjectivity inevitably leads to moving targets and redundant expense. While researching municipal noise ordinances best practices, I was pleased to find that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection produces a model noise control ordinance as guidance for municipalities to move to specific decibel standards to control noise. And JDEP encourages municipalities to submit their noise ordinances for approval or disapproval. And to date, around 200 New Jersey municipalities have submitted 13 in Bergen County. For example, I've attached Allendale's NJDEP approved decibel-based noise ordinance, also attaches the NJDEP model noise ordinance, and here's a link to many other NJDEP noise standard resources. Implementation of decibel-based ordinances in no way restricts Village Council from judgment-based exceptions, but it should greatly reduce the time you, the council, and the police spend on noise complaints and disagreements. I hope you can see from today's Glen School pickleball community short-term suggestions that Glen School pickleball community leaders are committed to finding fair solutions that keep all the Glen courts open. We also are working with Parks and Rec, sound experts, sound screen manufacturers, other towns, the National Pickleball Association, and experimenting with new quieter paddles to find a better long-term solution. Lastly, though I usually side with the greater good of the whole community, I respect the council's commitment to individual neighbor rights. That said, the mental and physical well-being of a large group of our COVID vulnerable resident senior citizens should be given your highest priority. Though I understand the good spirit behind the suggestion, breaking up the Glen pickleball community and dispersing them to new battles with the tennis community and neighbors in various new locations would defeat the purpose. The next one is from Jean Solomon, 648 Spring Avenue. Dear Mayor Knutson, Deputy Mayor Seaton, Councilwoman Perrin, Councilwoman Reynolds, Councilwoman Walsh. It was with great disappointment that I watched the discussion about pickleball at the meeting of the Village Council on January 6th. Although there were many speakers and letters supporting the immediate reopening of all the town's courts, pickleball and tennis, while negotiations were held, the council persons clearly had no interest in focusing on that. Instead, the members of the Village Council brainstormed ideas without, as several readily admitted, thoroughly understanding the culture and play of the game. This was particularly evident as many of the suggestions did not reflect the social aspect of the sport and the way the players continually change partners and opponents. The Parks and Recreation Department and pickleball players are keenly aware of and sensitive to the concerns of the neighbors. To that end, the village installed acoustic blocks on the fencing and mandated muted balls when concerns were initially raised. In addition, by mandating that courts may be used only by Ridgewood residents, the number of people using and therefore the use will drop significantly. But the neighbors have to recognize that the structure of Ridgewood is that all its schools, parks, houses of worship, and even its community hospital are embedded in residential areas. In every one of these situations, neighbors are impacted by various and consequential issues. That is a trade-off of living in Ridgewood and reaping its many benefits. It would be my suggestion that we just start all over, open the courts to Ridgewood residents immediately, and then create a committee of all the stakeholders to study all aspects of the situation. The committee would be charged with developing a plan to recommend to the Village Council, which allows players to play and neighbors to coexist with the courts. People love playing pickleball, and Ridgewood made a sizable investment in the courts. The solution to just abandon them seems inconceivable. Again, if I can be helpful in this process, do not hesitate to reach out to me. It seems I am writing, Mr. Solomon continues saying, I'm writing not about pickleball courts, but about the action of one of the members of the Village Council. It seems there have been a blatant attempt by one council person to foment negativity towards pickleball by sending out a message to others in the community. In the message, there's a reference to the need by neighbors to spend a large amount of money for the planting of shrubs and window replacement directly because of pickleball. This appears to be based on unsubstantiated anecdotal information. It is not the responsibility of the elected official to hear from both sides of an issue, educate him or herself about the topic, weigh both sides and make an informed decision. I feel this elected official should not be trying to stir up controversy. The message I saw was signed by a council person. If in fact this council person did not share these sentiments or is misquoted, I sincerely apologize. I think it is important that all the members of the Village Council be aware of this communication and the author of the statement to choose the path of recusal on the issue now and in the future. The next one is Tara Thompson, 271 Kenilworth Road. The mission statement of the Ridgewood Department of Parks and Recreation is to preserve open space and provide facilities and year-round recreational activities that meet the needs of all residents. Let me see. As a relative newcomer to the game of pickleball and a member of self-proclaimed group that calls themselves the Pickleball Mamas, I'm writing to you all to request the pickleball courts remain open, not locked during the winter months. I'm aware of the noise concerns from some residents living nearby the courts. I must admit that could be hard to get used to. However, Just as the sounds of children playing on the playground, the rhythmic sounds of the pickleball can become soothing if you think about the positive associations. Senior citizens getting outside during a global pandemic to socialize and exercise, to abate loneliness, overworked mothers getting fresh air, and some much needed time with friends and families, yes, families, playing the game together. Group of moms and college-age sons, daughters got together over the Thanksgiving break to play. How often do we get to play with our kids anymore? Meeting new residents of the village, no matter how short or long you live here. I personally met some wonderful people, so inviting and patient, and willing to provide tips about how to play the game. So many happy, smiling faces that are so nice to see, even if we are behind a mask. In addition to the outdoor physical activities, this also plays to the mental well-being of your village residents during these unprecedented times of a global pandemic. We are all trying to do our best. Pickleball is unique in that it is a game that is challenging enough for the serious athletic competitors and equally as satisfying to the unathletic, leisure, or social players. It can be played by people of all ages simultaneously. That cannot be said for many activities that take place within our parks. Age, gender, activity levels, and experience often segregate people, even if participating in the same activity at our parks. Pickleball does not do that. Pickleball brings everyone together. To me personally, this was the most unique and wonderful thing about pickleball over the last few months before the courts were locked. I take pride in our wonderful village. As a resident for over 20 plus years, I have witnessed our village grow and evolve. I've seen how much support there is for our village establishments during the pandemic, closing streets, outdoor dining, curbside pickups, increased use of our parks, lots of people walking, running, biking, and pickup games of pickleball. It is not a surprise that our village residents have taken a strong liking to this game. It's been growing in popularity for some time in the recent years in shore towns and warmer climates like locals in Florida. Ridgewood is an area filled with early adopters. I believe the mission of the Ridgewood Recreation Department and Ridgewood as a village is to provide its residents the opportunity to thrive. So let's be consistent in how we go about supporting that mission and vision. Please reconsider and allow Ridgewood to remain exemplary. Keep the pickleball courts open. And that's the last written comment I have.
With that, we'll close public comments. Look, we appreciate everybody's thoughtful comments about pickleball on both sides of this. I think we're just going to continue to work through the solutions to this and try as best we can to make everyone happy. So with that, Heather, you want to go on to count manager's report?
Sure. The annual parking permits are for sale at the Village Hall reception desk, Monday through Friday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12 noon, and then 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the customer service window to the left of the lobby doors. If there are any questions or you need to make an appointment to be able to get a permit, please call the receptionist at 201-670-5500 extension 200. The 2021 village calendars were mailed to every business and resident last week. So you should have received them. If not, you should receive them shortly. The Martin Luther King Jr. holiday will be observed with virtual programs on January 15th, 16th, and 18th. The struggle indoors will be the theme of the presentations. There are further details on the village website. I also want to remind everyone, all village offices will be closed on Monday, January 18th in observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. There will be no garbage or recycling pickup, and the recycling center will also be closed on that day. The Chamber of Commerce Restaurant Weeks provide discounts for diners and will take place January 17th to the 21st and January 24th to the 28th. This is a good time to sample the many restaurants in Ridgewood Central Business District. Please note these revised dates because they are different than those found in the village calendar. The Christmas tree pickups continue. The schedule is picks up on Tuesday on the east side and Thursday on the west side. They are picked up curbside, not in the street. So the next pickups on east side are January 19th and 26th. And on the west side, it's January 14th, 21st, and 28th. And they'll be picked up between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. Please remove all ornaments and lights from the Christmas trees and do not place them in plastic bags. If you wish to drop off your Christmas tree, you can do that at any time at the designated area, the Graydon Pool lot, until January 29th. The Hudson Street Garage, as we know, is open. It's $1 an hour. First level is dedicated to 3-hour parking. Second and third levels are Ridgewood parking permits, fourth level, Ridgewood parking permits, and also CBD employee parking permits. All levels are open at 12 noon forward for 3-hour parking, and you don't need a permit after 12 noon, and you can pay at the kiosk for 3 hours. 15-minute complimentary parking spaces in the Central Business District. We have several of them on Oak Street, Chestnut Street, North Broad Street, which are all off of East Ridgewood Avenue, and Wellesley Square on the west side. They're limited to 15 minutes only, are free of charge to everyone, and they're used to pick up food or do a quick errand. Please be aware that all vehicles remaining in the spaces for longer than 15 minutes may receive a summons. You can't park in those spaces for 15 minutes and then pay a kiosk for more time. 15 minutes is the maximum for these spaces. These spaces have been generously sponsored by several local businesses and Ridgewood residents, and they are acknowledged on these signs. The food recycling pilot program, we're still accepting applications through January 31st. You can apply online. If you wish to participate, you'll be given a 5-gallon food scrap collection container. You must empty the collection container weekly at the recycling center and also provide weekly data for our recycling division so that they can do an analysis to see how it's working. I just want to remind you for snow and ice, I'm hoping we have no more for the rest of the season, but that's optimistic, I think. Just remember, if there is snow or ice forecast, please bring your garbage cans to the end of your driveway and continue to do so until you have a clear path to your garbage cans. Upcoming village council meetings are broadcast live. January 27th is our next work session at 7:30. February 3rd is also a work session at 7:30. And then February 10th is our public meeting. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. I guess we'll start with who I see first is Councilwoman Perrin. Tammy, oh, there you go. Great.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to thank all the volunteers who take so much time to put the Martin Luther King Day celebration together. Every year, it's an interesting program. And it covers 3 days. Fridays is at the library. It's Through a Lens Darkly. It's a documentary about Black photographers. And this is a virtual meeting, and it does require registration through ridgewoodlibrary.org. And then on Saturday, there's donations drop-off at Ridgecrest at 7 Ridge Road. They're looking for peanut butter, tuna, rice, instant oatmeal. As you can see, there is some food insecurity in Ridgewood, so please consider donating in that drive. And then on Monday, there's a dance performance and two choirs performing, and a reenactment of Reverend Martin Luther King's last sermon. So those are all really good programs. With regard to the Central Business District Advisory Committee, we met, and the village manager talked to us about the potential use of bollards in the Central Business District for security and ease of placement and removal. And if you look on the main street in Glen Rock, you'll see these black stanchion things. Those are bollards. That's the technical term. And we could use them to create corrals for restaurants. So that's an interesting discussion that's going on. We also talked about whether, now that we have a garage and 4 multifamily housing complexes coming in, whether Ridgewood is eligible for additional grant monies. And we had some discussion about whether there are insufficient garbage receptacles downtown. So we're going to look into that. Chamber of Commerce met this morning with regard to 2 water main breaks in the Central Business District. The Chamber wanted to thank the town because the response of the crews was so quick that they had far less damage than they've ever had under these circumstances before. Also, we noted that Ridgewood residents are shopping downtown more, and keep it coming. It shouldn't just be the out-of-towners who come here to visit. we should be patronizing our own shops. It really makes a difference. Chamber of Commerce also spoke about a perceived litter increase downtown in the gutters, and whether it was masks or other types of litter. So we want to look into that as well. If you see a storm drain that is clogged, please notify the village, because that can lead to flooding. And they also asked whether, with regard to kiosk function, and they do occasionally malfunction, whether the parking enforcement officers in their rounds could check to make sure that kiosks are functioning. They also noted that the elevator in the garage needs to be cleaned. And as to the grab and go, they were very appreciative of the vigorous enforcement of the 15-minute limit. Oh, and I did want to mention something else that has been spoken about, but won't be spoken about again in front of the council, and that is there was a proposal for a $20,000 purchase of a lawnmower. The village was able to find an adequate model at $8,000, which does not have to come in front of the council. So I appreciate that savings. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had no meetings since last Wednesday, and I just wanted to say that the planning board will be meeting again this coming Tuesday, the 19th, and the Citizen Safety Advisory Committee will be meeting next Thursday, the 21st. That's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Walsh.
I don't have anything to report this evening.
Wow.
Quick.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few things to report this evening. The Green Team met last week, and the chair, Justin Manger, has stepped aside. He's still with us on the Green Team, but he has stepped aside now, and we're going to work with some new members to see who could fill that spot. So we'll have a vacancy for a little bit, but we are gearing up once again for the Sustainable Jersey submission to hopefully be recertified at a silver level here in Ridgewood. The PSE&G grants through Sustainable Jersey will be launched in January instead of November. And there will be extended deadlines for us and everybody else who are certified through Sustainable Jersey to apply for these grants. And, hopefully we'll see some positive movement there. The Shade Tree Commission met yesterday, and it was reported that in the 2020 planting season, 218 trees were planted in the village of Ridgewood. We did continue to discuss the emerald ash borer and the damage that could be done to ash trees. So they get real brittle when this invasive species gets in there, and it makes taking the trees down very difficult, because then you can't climb in them because they tend to explode in some cases, and the climbers could get injured. So the committee is going to work with the Shade Tree Department to identify maybe some bigger, more prominent ash trees in more prominent locations, and discuss whether or not they could be saved as part of a ongoing program, or if we had to do, maybe we have to do what some other towns have done and just go in there and cut all of the ash trees down in anticipation of the ravages of the emerald ash borer. So that will be a continuing discussion, and a presentation will be forthcoming to the village council to provide some more details on this subject that, quite frankly, we've been talking about for years in the Shade Tree Commission, but at the moment it seems like it is now upon us. And I think that, we're going to, the Shade Tree Commission is also compiling its annual progress report for the 5-year plan. Obviously, the tree inventory will be a big part of that, and other accomplishments for the 2020 year. And discussions of completing the tree inventory were also taken up And there's obviously costs associated with that, but we could do, we could potentially do the county roads in the village and the parks. So once again, those are going to be ongoing, and maybe during budget season, we'll come back with some recommendations or suggestions to complete the inventory. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I just have a couple of things. First, 4th of July committee met Monday night, so we're prepping for 4th of July. Just like downtown for the holidays and July 4th, 2020, unfortunately due to COVID-19 and our inability to see into the future and know where we'll be at with the pandemic, it's very difficult at best to make any kind of plans. So we did kind of talk about themes and who would be a grand marshal, and certainly looking at the theme of, hometown heroes, frontline workers, frontline heroes. And I think we all embrace the idea that everybody in our community is a hero, whether they were working on the front lines or not. Parents are heroes, teachers are heroes. We have so many heroes, and we acknowledge that. So we really wanted to look at a community event. We toyed with the idea of July 4th, maybe not in July, maybe moving it out a little further into the fall to make it a big community celebration of community unity. So we toyed with a couple of ideas, but once again, we just don't have a crystal ball. So as we move forward into February and March, we'll start to meet with the village, as always, right, Heather? And we'll start to organize and figure out what's doable and what's just not feasible under the circumstances. So for lack of a better summation, we don't have anything really much going on. I want to give a shout out, Cub Scout Pack 44, Luke and Quincy, working on, I guess, a government study, local municipal government. I met with the youngsters yesterday via Google Meet. That one was new to me. And the youngsters had lots of questions about the 5 of us, village council members. So I gave you all good plugs and told them all the wonderful things we do and the hard work and the challenges, how we meet, how our government is formed, the Faulkner form of government, how our village council and exactly how we operate our village manager, day-to-day operations. And so they were really lots of questions. And if anyone ever gets a chance to meet with the Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, it's always lots of fun. And finally, I just want to go back to something Councilwoman Perrin, 2 things actually. The Martin Luther King event this year sounds amazing. So it's a little bit different, but we always appreciate all the hard work, energy, and effort that goes into organizing, especially now. It makes it so much more difficult. But I did want to touch base on one thing that Pam said was about the PEOs checking the kiosks, because I think Heather and I have spoken about this in the past when they do their rounds. I find a lot of times if you go to put a quarter in, the quarters don't, it's like kind of like stuck. I don't know if it's like full or not. But I think that we've had this conversation. I just wonder if there's been any plan or any movement on that, because I agree. I think that, if they can go around as they're just walking through and they can just even, with a, some way of checking, I don't know if it's a tool or something that they can check. There must be a way that we can make certain that the kiosks are working as they go through the round. So I think that's really important. And with that, Access meets next week, also next Thursday. Access Community Access Network, that's our special needs community. And I just want to point out, I know we're adopting a resolution this evening for United Way, the $500,000 of our trust fund. And that's for our special needs housing project. And I had the opportunity to tour last week with Tom Toronto, the current project and where we're at with it. I have to say, it's really just so exciting. It's amazing. It's magnificent. It's beautiful. It's a 3rd floor of the Seal Fonds Enclave location. And I just shared that with the chairperson of Access this morning, and she was so thrilled. And we believe they'll be taking applications, probably going up online in February on the United Way and Madeline House website. So we encourage everyone to take a look at that. And I guess we'll post a link on the village website. So really, really amazing stuff happening here in Ridgewood. And with that, we'll move on to our meeting. That's it.
Just have 2 things. I did speak with Sergeant Chuck, who's in charge of the PEOs, they do check the kiosks. We ask that if any of you ever are in the CBD and find that a kiosk is not working, to please call the police department main number, 201-652-3900, and report it and the location of the kiosk. And this way they will get it fixed through our signal division. A lot of times, sometimes it has to be reset. Sometimes there is something stuck in the place where the coins go, but certainly they can do it quickly and expediently if they're called and notified. So that would be beneficial. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the Ridgewood Village Council is looking for volunteers for a few committees. One is the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. The other is the Ridgewood Green Team. And the final one is the Library Board of Trustees. And so we ask that you apply in our Citizen Volunteer Leadership Forum, which is under the village website. Click on Forums, click on page 2, click on Village Clerk, and then you'll see the Citizen Volunteer Leadership Forum. They will be sent to Donna Jackson, the Deputy Village Clerk. They can either be mailed, put in the yellow mailbox with her name on it, which is outside the lobby doors of Village Hall, or you can email her at djackson@ridgewoodnj.net. And the deadline is this coming Tuesday, January 19th.
Can I just, do you mind, I just want to add two things. So when people report a kiosk, there's a number, the kiosk number. So instead of saying like it's on.
That would be helpful to have the number.
Or it just makes it easy to identify the location. And I actually had posted the citizen volunteer form and everything on social media. We just want to say for the Library Board of Trustees, we're also looking for folks that are able to come on in and take somewhat of a leadership role in different aspects of the jobs that are available to members of the Board of Trustees, because there's a lot of work that goes into that, and sometimes you have to take the ball and run with it. So we are looking for folks that are capable of taking somewhat of a leadership role in making a commitment. So thank you.
And the information is also on the village website at the narrative, which is at the bottom below all the tiles that, set forth the different things. So please apply. It's a wonderful thing. We have a great group of volunteers, and we would appreciate it if you would consider doing so. So moving on to resolution. The first one is authorizing the temporary capital budget. If you're willing to, we'll do this by consent agenda and just take a motion and a second and vote. May I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay. And a second?
Second. I second.
Okay. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
We have no ordinances for Ridgewood Water, and we have no resolutions for Ridgewood Water. We'll now go to ordinances.
Okay, on 3835, I'm stepping away. I'm recusing, so Mike is on that one.
I move the first reading of ordinance 3835.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
and Walsh.
Yes.
So ordered. Will the clerk please read the ordinance 3835 by title?
An ordinance to fix salaries, wages, and other compensation of and for firefighters and fire superior officers of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey.
I move that ordinance 3835 be adopted on first reading and that February 10th, 2021 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
and Walsh.
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I'm back.
Anytime.
Thanks. I move the first reading of ordinance 3836.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, so ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3836 by title?
A bond ordinance providing for the 2021 road paving program and other related road work in and by the Village of Ridgewood in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, appropriating $2,500,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,375,000 bonds or notes of the village to finance part of the cost thereof.
Okay,
I move that ordinance 3836 be adopted on first reading and that February 10th, 2021 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
I second the motion.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3837.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Clerk, please read the ordinance 3837 by title.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 1, General Provisions of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood at Section 1-15, Violations and Penalties.
I move that ordinance 3837 be adopted on first reading and that February 10th, 2021 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3838.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. So ordered. Will clerk please read ordinance 3838 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-59, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections, and at Section 265-60, Schedule 10, Yield Intersections.
I move that ordinance 3838 be adopted on first reading and that February 10th, 2021 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3839.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. So ordered. Will clerk please read ordinance 3839 by title?
An ordinance to fix the salary, wage, or compensation of and for the supervisory employees of the Village of Ridgewood, County of Bergen, and State of New Jersey.
I move that ordinance 3839 be adopted on first reading and that February 10th, 2021 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3833 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Bernie.
Thank you. Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the ordinance 3833? The title.
3833. An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-59, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections.
Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
Any comments? Please raise your hand. I'm showing none.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I got one.
Hello, good evening. This is the public hearing for ordinance 3833. Please state your name and address for the record.
Excuse me, Miss Style.
Okay, it happens. Okay,
All right, they're off. I'm showing no others.
great. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3833 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3834 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Perrin,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3834?
An ordinance of the Village of Ridgewood authorizing the execution of a financial agreement with Ridgewood Senior Citizen Housing Corp., Inc. and Ridgecrest Urban Renewal LLP, granting a tax exemption for Ridgecrest Senior Citizen Housing.
Public hearing is now open. Dylan?
have one person.
Good
Rich
evening.
Barclay,
Hi,
please
Rich.
unmute.
Hi, Rich. Just your name and address for the record.
My name is Rich Barclay, and I'm calling on behalf of Ridgecrest, which is 911 Ridge Road in Ridgewood.
Okay, go ahead, Rich.
A little background in that Ridgecrest consists of 129 affordable housing units for low-income and senior and disabled residents in Ridgewood. I'm a former Ridgewood Zoning Board member, Planning Board member, and a Ridgecrest volunteer for over 20 years. As you may know, we've asked for a postponement of the ordinance regarding our application for a pilot agreement. I've had the opportunity to speak with Councilwoman Walsh, and she raised a couple of questions, which I have the answers to. However, she indicated she wished she had more time to review our request. Understanding this, as well as understanding that other council members may also have questions, we think it's best that we postpone for now. I will make myself available anytime in the coming week or weeks to answer any question the council members may have. We certainly look forward to working with the council on this matter, which will be a win for the Village of Ridgewood and its residents, as well as the senior and disabled residents of Ridgecrest. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Have a good evening.
You too.
Is there anyone else, Dylan?
I'm showing no others.
Okay. I move the public hearing on ordinance 3834 be continued to February 10th, 2021.
Second.
Karen,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
So now on to resolutions. The following resolutions, number 21-03 through 21-15, will be adopted by consent agenda with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. Authorized 2021 temporary budgets. Authorized tax assessor, tax collector to file appeals and/or settlement stipulations. Award contract, kitchen renovation, fire department. Authorized shared services agreement, school resource officer, Ridgewood Board of Education. Authorized shared services agreement, Bergen County Police Chiefs Association, Mutual Aid Plan, and Rapid Deployment Force. Clarify compliance with federal civil rights requirements. Increase 2021 deferred school taxes. Adopt notice of tort claim form. Endorse application for community development block grant, Share Inc., 104 Cottage Place, public bathroom addition. Endorse application for community development block grant, Share Inc., 130 Prospect Street, renovation of bathrooms and powder room. Authorize execution of stipulation of settlement for a tax appeal for Palm View Medical Building. Authorize disbursement of affordable housing trust fund money to 257 Ridgewood Avenue Associates and United Way for special needs housing. And appoint member to Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Karen,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. With that, we will return to comments from the public, not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Dylan?
If anybody has any comments, please raise your hand. Okay, dial in 4074, please unmute.
Hi, good evening. Please state your name and address for the
Hi,
record.
Sherry Biscuit, 178 McKinley Place. I just again want to express my disappointment that the mayor's comments about the pickleball problems at Glen are being stated as something that we'll continue to work through. That would be fine if balance were being applied in the immediate situation, but someone felt they had the authority to lock the courts. And the situation is not currently balancing anyone's needs. It's giving 100% of the desires of a few neighbors. And I again ask the council, or whomever it is that feels they have the authority to padlock the courts, to please unpadlock them while this is worked through. It is simply not fair to all constituents to have an all or nothing solution for as little as another day. Please take the appropriate actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
right. Anybody else wanting to make public comment, please raise your hand. I'm showing no others.
Very good. And with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn. We don't have closed session or anything, right? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.